Prova, prova.
Yes, if you want to.
Prova.
Enrico Boldrini, buongiorno, sono il tecnico di Eurac. Lei mi sente?
Buongiorno.
Perfetto. Lei può provare un attimo la telecamera, così in sala la
Sì,
testiamo, solo per test. Avrà un PowerPoint o qualcosa da condividere? Se vogliamo
sì.
fare un check veloce.
Sì, non so se è possibile condividere lo schermo oppure...
Sì, 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 certo.
Provo subito. Condividi schermo.
Ok.
Bene,
Sì, c'è da
allora,
aprire il PowerPoint, fare full screen, però vedo già che arriva.
bene, perfetto. Ecco qua,
Perfetto. La ringrazio.
prego.
Le chiedo allora di chiudere il microfono e ci aggiorniamo dopo.
Grazie mille.
A lei.
Okay, so thank you for being here in this session that has this name of building the Green Deal data space in a way that contributes to GEO. We have a very packed agenda, so I already prepared the high technology thing to measure the time, and I have a couple of things to say. The first one is that we have an Slido system to actually generate questions. As I say, we have a very packed agenda, so we will try to save the questions for the final discussion, and for that reason, I will ask all the presenters to provide their presentation in 5 minutes or less, never more. And I say that to myself also. So if you are an old school, you can go to slido.com and use the number 2004342. This is like one of these TV shows that says the telephone only once and you missed it already. So 2004342, but I believe you can take a picture of that thing in the middle and that will go to that. This is also an activity organized by the Action Group for the Green Deal data space. If you want to be in our email list, please email myself. This is joan.maso@uab.cat. So please let us know, or to Paolo, and let us know that you want to be part of this group announcement, and we will add you there. And I believe with no further delay, we will go for our first presentation. The title is European Data Ecosystems and GEO. This is Franz Immler from the European Commission, and the floor is yours. If we can have the slides for the presentation, that will be better. If not, probably you remember by heart. So let's wait for them and see.
Okay, thank you, Joan. Franz Immler, correct pronunciation. It's not so easy, I guess. From European Commission. I work in the DG for Research and Innovation and lead the team on environmental observation. And we're basically much engaged with GEO and EuroGEO. I will, in fact, not take a lot of time and just probably reflect a bit on the title of this session, European Data Ecosystem and GEO. Sorry, that's the title of my talk. Is it there? Yes?
I believe that is the presentation.
Yeah, that's fine. That's it. That's it. That's so. Oops, but I think that's not the slide. Okay. There's one slide missing. Okay, sorry. So Yeah, as I said, probably I will anyway raise a bit more questions than provide some, or raise some thoughts, food for thought. So European data spaces is something that came out from the European data strategy that was formulated in 2020 by the European Commission. And it's a lot in the context with quite some legislation that also came up as part of this European data strategy. The Data Act, the Data Governance Act, and some others that you probably are aware of or not. But in fact, this data legislation may well be a game changer in some respects. The way we use data, the way data is raised and owned and licensed and used by various actors. It's particularly concerns data that comes from IoT, so from devices that you have, from machines, from your car. All these things generate data today, and indeed, it's quite a hot topic to discuss. Who owns it currently? For example, the data that is generated by a machine like your car is owned by the manufacturer of that car. And they do with it whatever they like. They have cameras inside your car that take pictures of whatever you do in them. So be aware. And so these things should be a bit better governed in the future. That's one of the key aspects. And that has, of course, also some impact in the area of Earth observation. Even though here we already are in a space where we have already well-established rules and procedures, and we follow in GEO, as you know, very much the open data policy. So we want data to be available that comes from Earth observation instruments from space, but also from ground and in various places. So that's a bit this context of data space. But the question is, what is that now, a data space? And in fact, in this case, I cannot really provide you with some answer. What I took this slide from Patrick Griffith's presentation from last year's EuroGEO, because it kind of shows in a bit the area in which we interact. It's quite a fragmented. There's so many different places. We actually have a very rich area of data creation, data platforms, data high performance infrastructure and so on. So it's a very rich but also very fragmented space. And part of the idea of having data spaces is to bring some more coherence into this. And to serve the needs of users, and that's a bit the key aspect. So just to give some key aspects that I think could be interesting for the discussion. So we have this rich but also very fragmented digital EO ecosystem, as we call it today, or a system of systems or systems of ecosystems. But it's definitely not a well coherent and well regulated system that we currently look at, with a huge number of actors within Europe, and of course a lot more if you look at the global scene. I'm really sorry that one slide is missing, but you see here a link to the JRC report that was very recently published, and I think it's really, I just read it thanks to the fact that I come here by train and had some time to read long documents. And I think it's really worth looking into it because it's very well elaborated. And again, it raises questions and aspects. It doesn't really provide probably the key solution. In fact, it says that you will not have a centralized infrastructure or governance. That is not very realistic in this very fragmented and very diverse space. Rather, we should take a community-based approach and design this data space from the user needs. And I think that's a very important aspect. So we cannot create, and I think that was a bit the idea in GEO with building a system of systems, create one big platform system that serves all needs. This will never work. But instead, we should start from the user needs, from what tools do we want to produce, what services do we want to produce, and and formulate the requirements, which data do we need, which data quality do we need, and so on. Formulate the requirements from there, and then build the data space based on those needs. So you will have, and that's anyway what you see, you will have a number of data spaces. There will not be the one data space, but for each area where you need it, you will build the data space according to the user needs. And that's, I think, a very important aspect. Of course, I think it raises questions with the Green Deal data space. Okay, who are the users and what are their needs? But this we can discuss today. So GEO, as you know, has its new strategy, and the term Earth Intelligence is one key term in this new strategy. And again, it says, I think we can interpret it a bit the same way. So we want to build really user-driven tools, user knowledge, tailored, actionable knowledge or insights that serve the needs of the users. In GEO, of course, this is always related to addressing the big environmental challenges like climate, biodiversity loss, disasters, etc. And based on those needs that we identify for a certain group, we build the corresponding data space. So based on requirements, and GEO, I think, offers then a great opportunity. So we can start doing this in Europe, and we have started doing this already quite well in Europe. And GEO offers an opportunity to scale this up on a global scale, based also or in cooperation with the GEO initiatives. So that's what I wanted to bring into the discussion. Thanks for listening, and back to the next speaker, or back to the chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much for the introduction. The next speaker here is Paolo Mazzetti, that from the CNR. He is a great speaker from the great project. And by the way, if you use the Slido, there is a poll, but there is also a Q&A. So you have to click in there instead of being here, and then you can formulate questions. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, John. I don't see my slide yet. I'm going to give you a very quick introduction to the great project, which is the project for building the community of practice for the later implementation of the Green Deal data space. Thank you. I see something over my slides, if you can. Thank you. Okay, so I would start linking back to what Franz just said, that our activity stems from the European Strategy for Data, which envisions the creation of the common European data space and the single market of data to foster a data-driven economy, already actually citing the Green Deal priorities as one of the main objectives. But what is interesting is that it highlights that it is not just about data sharing, but also about trust, so meaning protection of privacy, ethics, and so creating the so-called European way to data sharing. And in terms of implementation, there are several actions. One is in the Digital Europe program for preparatory actions to the implementation of the data space, and here is where our project was funded. And then in parallel, there are activities in the Horizon Europe program for funding research on and innovation for the Green Deal data space. And here 4 projects were funded, and we will have some speech later about that. But of course, we have also many initiatives, and also Franz mentioned, and in particular here you can see mentioned Copernicus, Gaia X, Destination Earth, and of course EuroGEO and the GEO. So the objective for the implementation of the sectorial data spaces, including the Green Deal one, is to address one of the major challenges, I would say, in Europe, that is to reduce the current fragmentation of initiatives and infrastructures, to create this interoperable and reliable, trusted, let's say, data sharing for sharing of data, but also processing, so usage, and to put in place a set of rules, so not just technical aspects, but also governance aspects. And so the idea is, of course, to create this Green Deal data space and make this Of course, taking into account what is already existing, including the future other sectorial data spaces. So the great project started September last year. Sorry, I don't know what happened. It's not yes. But basically, we will end on February next year, or probably with an extension in April, but we are in the last months. And the first action was to build the community of practice for the Green Deal. You can see here, addressing in particular three of the many, I would say, policy strategy related to the Green Deal, that are the zero pollution action, the biodiversity strategy for 2030, and climate action. And the community of practice includes the so-called quadruple helix of innovation, so the industry, the academic world, the government, and civil society. And the objective is to collect requirements for the three, let's say, major activities in the project that are the definition of the high priority data sets for Green Deal applications, the definition of an high-level architecture, a conceptual model that's called the technical blueprint, and the definition of the governance and the business model. Each of these activities releases one of the major outcomes that actually feed the definition of the roadmap to the implementation. We are currently in the first round, so we are delivering now the first version of the roadmap, so we already have the first version of the other three activities, and the next months, through the consultation of the community, of our community of practice, we will refine the results. I would just highlight some aspects of relation with EuroGEO and GEO. Concerning, for example, the technical aspects, we started with the concept of digital ecosystems implemented with what is called the soft infrastructure, which means basically based on agreements, so standard specifications, and logical building blocks that can help to create the data space. We actually had some lessons learned from activities, for example, in GEO. Some example is, for example, the combination, I would say, of community standards with mediation tools. And also, this architecture includes interoperability, but not only interoperability. What's interesting is that there is this trust aspect, which means that we have also a security and trust architecture, which is actually developed also in coordination with the other data spaces. There are European initiatives that are part of the design. For example, we have research infrastructure as part of the consortium with EPOS. We have interaction with the community infrastructure like EMODNet and more generally the marine community. We have GeoFlagship, for example, goes for the observatory on Mercury. And of course, relation with the Copernicus services, Destination Earth, and so on. There are also, say, similarities, but also differences in the data space creation and in GEO and GEOS objectives. For example, the data space has this focus not just on data sharing, but also on trust. While, as also Franz mentioned before, the focus of GEO is now clearly on this idea of Earth intelligence, that's generation of knowledge. The Green Deal data space, like all the other data spaces, has already, since the beginning, a focus on governance. And also in terms of objectives, of course, the Green Deal data space is focused on European Green Deal objectives, while the focus of GEO is on engagement priorities, but of course there is also an overlap on these priorities. And this is my last slide. Thank you. And now it's my turn to actually introduce Joan Maso from CREAF, presenting some activities on the AD4GD project, correct?
Yes. So thank you. I'm not longer the moderator. I'm the speaker now. So as soon as I have the slides in the screen, I will tell you about this AD4GD. So the GREAT project is a coordinated support action on the Green Deal data space. The AD4GD, the FairyCube, the usage, and the BC are three research projects that are bringing ideas on how to develop the Green Deal data space. I work at this CREAF center there in Barcelona. So data spaces were presented. Priorities of the European Green Deal is the climate change, the circular economy, the pollution, the biodiversity, and the deforestation. That makes the Green Deal data space the most heterogeneous and multidisciplinary of all, I believe. And we have been thinking if the data space is the only and the right solution to ensure open data and at the same time trust governments and data sovereignty. I'm saying that because the industry defines the data space, and I'm talking about the International Data Space Association, as a mechanism to distribute static assets shared among two participants in a secure channel. So this means that you need some kind of a software that is called connector, and the data sharing that they are using as a concept is exactly the opposite as open data, because it's two partners deciding in a contract to actually exchange data in exchange of service, money, whatever. So actually, we are not talking about the data sharing principles that are in GEOs, but these other semantics. And this has been bothering me for a while. So questions on how to combine open data with secure data in a data space that is based on this definition is a challenge. How to share queryable dynamic assets in a data space is another. Is the data space defined to allow processing of data? And is this loosely coupled approach that we all like in GEO, providing enough trust in this common definition of the data space? The title of the slide is Extending the Definition, because if we do not extend the definition, then we are lost. So one thing that we can propose is to actually have nodes that are somehow secured, allowing the exchange of information and allowing this digital economy that the Commission wants, but also have open nodes that are not strictly part of the data space in the sense that they are not connectors in the data space, but still they are nodes in the data space, and try this as a mix and match. This is not the approach recommended in that book, chapter 14, but after thinking about this, this is the conclusion that we got in the project, that the approach that I presented to you might be better. And also, of course, we need to add the geospatial services that the International Data Space Association doesn't know about. So we, in our project, want to break silos in the Green Deal data space, and we will do several things. Those are just examples. We want to share and combine in situ data using the SensorThing API and this new extension of SensorThing that is called SensorThing API Plus. And I'm victim about 1 minute. And also with gridded data in data cubes. We are going to do the first with usage. We are going to do the second with VCube and FairyCube. So we are collaborating among us, trying to figure out the right recommendations for the Green Deal data space. We want to use semantics, and we have two approaches: one general data information model for the Green Deal, and another focus more on detecting variables and observe properties, their names, if they are essential variables, units of measures, and also core reports on provenance of the data. This is the way we can build trust and sovereignty in an open environment. And of course, that other thing about the OGC services I already told you. We have three use cases that are at the bottom of the screen. This thing is actually presenting how we interpret the FAIR principles in general. I will just not repeat that because it's more or less the same that I showed to you. We have a pilot in Berlin about water, water quality, water availability. We have another pilot in Catalonia about biodiversity and actually connectivity of mammals in the metropolitan area. And we have an air quality case on North Italy on trying to complement official products, reference data and so on with sensor data, chip sensors, citizen science data, and so on. And we are promoting this special issue on data spaces that we are the guest editors. We are inviting all of you to actually present your research in there or your discussions. As one of the promoters of the action group, I would like to emphasize that we have this webpage about the action group, actiongroup.greendeal.space. And of course, I'm not doing this alone. There are some partners apart from CREAF in the All Data for Green Deal. And I will shut up immediately. Please follow us.
Thank you, Joan. So my next speaker is Peter Baumann from Jacobs University, talking about the Air Server data space analysis ready A cubes for the Green Deal. Please, Peter.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. So let me have a look. Is that a slide I can tell something about? Yeah, this looks good. Okay. So thanks for having me here in this exciting discussion that is about Green Deal and how we want to deal with the deal. A lot of good things have been said with more wisdom than I can present on this topic here. Therefore, let me just focus on one thing. I believe one key question is that we can really quantitatively assess changes and forecasts, etc. And actually, as we talk about quantities, this is a typical classical big data problem that we have, and we need to get somehow order into that. In particular, and Joan has mentioned that too, as we have not one, but several such data spaces, and they overlap, they share data, which complicates it even more. So bottom line, we have a problem getting to grips with our data, a big data problem. Now, the keyword data cubes also has been mentioned already. This is no magic, it's just a simple way to perceive data. If you and I talk about the atmosphere in this room here, do we talk about dozens of netcdf files? Rather, we talk about 3 dimensions, X, Y, Z, and in time, we have something 4-dimensional. So the spatial temporal view on the data that are spatial temporal is the data cube principle, and that simply makes it easier not only for humans, by the way, but also for tools. Okay, this doesn't come by itself. It needs some work to getting everything together, homogenizing, and in the end, making that analysis ready. We always had to do that. But that was done by the users, scientists, whoever, who had to download data, homogenize, extract, bring them together. And that is one of the major hurdles. Today, however, this is more and more pushed to the service providers. They should do that job once and for all. They know their data best and they have the resources for it. And then we have an easier way that works across dimensions, ideally, to provide data in a way to make them more understandable. What we have done in that field is actually at some time, we have coined data cubes that is documented by publications, etc. We follow a database approach to that, in that we want to offer management and analytics like any database system, just not on tables, but on data cubes. That is done over many research projects, and today this is a full stack implementation that is operational on over 160 petabytes, and it has found, by the way, the blessing of SQL. Yes, the query language for data cubes that we have developed is part of the SQL standard today. Okay, the practical use of that is actually in something that you can call a data space that is Earth server. This is really not something that has been designed up high in governments or so, but it's a grassroots movement of data centers where everybody brings in individual data and they come together forming a big pool, a single pool of location transparent data access, which is fully based on open standards and allows analytics with zero coding. You find data centers from the US over Europe to Taiwan. It's open, free, transparent, and democratic. And it also combines both free and commercial data. And as has been said, yes, they need to have some minimum of trust, and there need to be mechanisms to establish, to implement that so that this trust can be verified every time, let us say, a new administrator comes in. And we want to retain local autonomy in the end. As an outlook, we can then think about how to add in a further spice, like, for example, AI. And our approach is in collaboration with the FairyCube project and AICube Begundemir in TU Berlin, to add that into the query language so that users get a seamless view on the data, on the processing, be that classical processing or machine learning. That all is available via standards-based client, lots of third-party clients. And actually, there are so many colors in this picture, so this is just a good point to stop here. Thank you very much for your attention. And I give back to the moderator.
Thank you, Peter. Next speaker is Stefania Morrone from Epsilon Italia, presenting the FairyCube project. Please, Stefania, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paolo. Okay, waiting for the slides. In the meantime, I'm Stefania Morrone, working for Epsilon Italia in the context of the FairyCube project. Okay, here. A little background. So how does our project originate? Discussions we're having with our non-Earth observation colleagues on what they could do if only they could add the fine-grained in situ observation data with the wealth of Earth observation products. So they would like to have an easy overview of what data is available and necessary storage requirements. They wanted to understand how to merge the different grids, how to understand machine learning techniques, or where to find description and algorithms that maybe they can easily reapply and under what condition, how they could estimate processing resources required for data analysis, and how they could integrate existing point and vector data. So they were just like child in front of a candy store, not finding a way past the glass pane. So while talking about how to deliver the power of data cubes and machine learning to decision makers and data scientists, merging the spatial temporal dimension to the thematic dimensions, they wanted just to find their data, so wanted data to be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable Earth observation data. And clearly, when we talk about observation data, Earth observation data, we're talking about data cubes. And idea was to find a way to go from collection of existing tools and services to an integrated platforms that the user can access through a data catalog of pre-gridded, pre-aligned, and pre-referenced Earth observation data. A data processing catalog that includes also analysis and processing resources and machine learning, and that could help with data storage and computation of needed resources, with possibility to create own custom data cube, and metadata pipeline, so data, the processing steps, and so on, and community platform sharing. So this is how the idea originated. This has become a proposal that was accepted by the Horizon Europe project. And this became, FairyCube became an Horizon Europe project that will end in 2025. A consortium considers 3 research institutes and also SMEs in the environmental and geomatic field and technical SMEs. So mission of our project, enable players from beyond classic Earth observation domain to provide access, process, and share gridded data and algorithms in a fair and trustable manner, and create a common marketplace for data, algorithms, and machine learning models. How to do this? We want to establish a Fairy Cube hub that is an integrated platform for fair spatial Earth observation data ingestions, analysis, and machine learning processing. This demonstrates the Fairy Cube hub by running 5 use cases addressing EU Green Deal actions, so climate change, circular economy, and biodiversity, but even more, and collaborate with major communities working on data cubes like the Eurodata Cube, Earth Server, extend the usability and visibility, the findability of Earth observation data through an integrated platform, so in the same place, and provide insight to the creation of the Green Deal data space. So we have 5 use cases with urban and regional focus. You will find more information downloading the presentation. I don't want to run out of time. We are using the data cubes clearly. But what is the particularity of our project? In our case, we need both the spatial temporal dimension of the cubes and the thematic dimension of the cubes. So we are building on standards. And the ISO 19123 is the addressed standard. And I will not go into the details, but we focus on multidimensional gridded coverages and support grid topologies whose axes are aligned with the axis of the CRS. And we want that axis can be referenceable. That is, for example, the axis represents category in a code list, maybe land cover category or species. We are, for example, the Rastaman, you have already seen presentation just before mine, support these ISO 19123 specifications. We realized that occurrence cubes, genomic cubes, and land cover alternative cubes. Nice is that there we have thematic access, and we provide in single pixel not only which is the overall land cover assignment, but we can provide percentages in the pixel because we have the cube, and these are axes of the cube, but for this, please ask question maybe later. So cross-domain issues we are facing. First of all, CRSs. Domain and machine learning experts usually are unaware of CRS issues. They only think about Google Coordinate or WGS84. And the main axis, how do we effectively integrate domain dimension and with spatial temporal dimensions, and also which are requirements for understandable artificial intelligence when supporting scientific research. Also, how much data storage and processes we need. This is important, but last one, so the metadata concept. So metadata is essential. Exposing good information about quality, about how you can apply and when it is possible and is feasible to apply what you will find in the metadata catalog, for example, an algorithm, to what data. So there is currently not much support for this. For example, for dataset, in the metadata standard, there is not much support for analysis-ready data and for analysis and processing resources. We are extending the stack standard and the work we will find in the FairyCube GitHub repositories. So also how to align different grids, because some are geodetic, some are projected, understanding different grid approaches, so how to assign values to, I'm stopping in a few seconds. Different types of data require different resampling approach. This is very important. And which is our contribution to the Green Deal data space? What would we like to do? Standardizing data models supporting ARD, so utilizing the standards and including comprehensive metadata, extended in a agreed way, public discussion on these, and shareable results. Dynamic access to data and processing by APIs, so subsetting, so that the user can be, for example, able to ask for subsurface temperature with a specific resolution and a specific CRS. WCPS queries and user-defined functions. So, for example, I want to calculate vegetation index out of land cover, elevation, and ortho imagery layers in the cube. Support resource estimation, and a knowledge base providing support to the diverse approaches. So conclusion is that, last slide, current geospatial data cubes over focus on spatial temporal dimensions. And we want that thematic aspects is taken into account. For well-founded research, we require both spatial-temporal and thematic dimension. Standardization of data model and analysis processing routines enable efficient utilization of these resources, and information on potential pitfalls when applying machine learning to geospatial data cubes, making also this information available. So not only our success, but our failure as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefania. Next presentation is by Quentin Groom from Maso Botanic Garden on simplifying access to biodiversity data for rapid, repeatable analysis across large areas in the BCube project. Please.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm Quentin Groom, Maso Botanic Garden, coordinator of building blocks for biodiversity. So what are the challenges we are trying to address? We recognize the triple crises we're in, but particularly the biodiversity crisis, and we need rapid, reliable, and repeatable workflows to generate information on this for policymaking. We think there is an issue with data, but we think we have enough, and we think we have the right statistical and data analysis tools to be able to analyze data in a useful way. And BCubed is trying to create workflows to be able to analyze those data in a way that anybody can use those workflows, whether you're from Europe or not, and do it in a repeatable way and have that code to do it in a way that you can adapt to your own needs. So biodiversity data, as you probably know, comes from all different sorts of sources. It's never the same twice. There's a lot of data coming from citizen science, for instance, such as bird watchers. We have data coming from eDNA. Increasingly, artificial intelligence is used along with cameras to detect organisms, and even drones can collect data. And all that data, if you want to look at things in a broad expanse, has to be aggregated and put together, and we're doing that by using data cubes. So these cubes are dimensions of time, space, and taxonomy. So in actual fact, 4 dimensions. And out of that, we want to create maps and models, indicators for change, and potentially species distribution, species networks, so that we can look at ecosystems and how they function. So I won't go into all of this, but obviously BCubed is very policy aligned. It's funded by a governance call from Horizon Europe, and we are doing that policy alignment. And I've already mentioned about the workflows, but I should say something about the fact we're using cloud computing, because that's a very collaborative computing environment, but also one that's extensible and can expand as need be. So what are we actually doing? Once we've created the cube, which we're only 6 months in, but we are already creating cubes, and if anybody wants a cube, please go and ask me afterwards. We're going to be doing modeling on those. Fairly standard species distribution modeling, but also some more in-depth modeling to pull out information. We're creating indicators on that, such as phylogenetic indicators to look at species richness, impacts of invasive species, and their distribution in space, and looking at robustness of all those indicators we produce to inform policy better. Our activities, I mentioned the fact we're looking at policy. That's currently what we're really focusing on at the moment, but we're not just looking at European policy, we're also looking at the broader scale at international policy, particularly the targets of the CBD and the Global Biodiversity Framework, which is very much in the news at the moment, and how BQ can potentially support those initiatives. It occurred to me after hearing lots of these talks how much we talk about interoperability, but I haven't heard anybody talking about training. And when you consider how complicated all of this is, training is essential. And I know if we want people to adopt all of the wonderful things we're creating, we need to better train people and train people across disciplines to use all of these products. I won't go into any great depth of this because I don't really have enough time, but I wanted to mention the hackathon that we're having next April. So if you don't know what a hackathon is, it's about getting informaticians together, in this case biodiversity informaticians, getting them talking to the people who want tools, having a week where they can lock themselves in a room as a group and come up with a solution. Maybe something they don't have time to do in their daily work, maybe something they can do collaboratively with people who are not coders. This is a call for you to come to Belgium, to Brussels, to the Herman Terling building, where on the 2nd to the 5th of April, we'll be having a hackathon. And yeah, please do come and collaborate, whether you're an informatician or not. I should mention my consortium. There are 13 of us, 2 from South Africa and 1 from Australia, so not all European, but a broad spread of European institutions as well. And I should also mention particularly GBIF, because that's a global infrastructure and a very important one for biodiversity data. So that's all I have to say. Yeah, please do come and collaborate with us.
Thank you, Quentin. Next speaker is Tom Hengler from OpenGeo Hub, speaking on the Open Earth Monitor data processing for the Green Deal data space.
So yes, I'm a project lead at the Open Earth Monitor project, and of course we also building data cubes at different tiers. So we'll talk about it. Let's see. This project is 22 participants, partners, and we started with, we're now about a bit longer than 1 year, and by the end of this year there will be quite some outputs coming out. We are quite also use case driven, use cases in the center, and on the bottom is the tools we're developing, and we have this series of monitors we're going to build, but we published the implementation plan. So if you're really interested, the one on the right here, it's a Medium, so we published the implementation plan so you can read it, but it's not too technical, it's more like human readable, but it provides all the details of the things we're going to build. So, and of course we have this workshop from Wednesday. I think many of you are staying, so you will see everything about what we do from Wednesday till Friday. It's about 110 participants. We're very excited. We decided in implementation plan, it was a very good process to build that implementation plan. And we decided to do a 3-tier approach. So we are building a central app called Open Earth Monitor app. But we also support the tier 2, which is the partners building their own monitors. And the tier 3 is something that a student or anyone can build in a day or in the afternoon. And I'm equally passionately supporting all 3, and they're all really fun. But they're very different. You know, if you want to build a tool for somebody to make something in 1 day or in a few hours, or if you want to make something like a tier 1 or professional central place with all the things. We are use case driven. We have 32 use cases. This is one of the bigger use cases. It's a global, and we are working with the UNCCD. And just to give you some example how it looks like. So the first thing is we have Baron Orr from LDN, UNCCD. I think he's one of the founders of this method. And so he's also now stakeholder committee. So we really work close with all these people. You see here, some of them are here with us also, like Gilberto and Peter Strobel. But we really work for them because we want to really make something that Baron Oro will say, yeah, this is exactly what we need for the LDN. For example, now they're migrating from 300-meter resolution. They want to migrate to 30-meter resolution global data sets. There's a couple of global data sets. And we want to help prepare this data so it becomes way more easy to use and way more accessible. And also want to develop some new objective methods to do things. So here's an example. We're just finishing this work on mapping potential vegetation. This is the FAPAR monthly for 1 year, 2020. Just an example, just to see. So this is what we call a Earth without people. So it's not that, it's not that I don't like people or something, but, if you want to estimate what is the land potential, you have to imagine how the nature will develop, without human influence, urbanization, intensive croplands, etc. And then we also map that difference between potential and actual, and you can see places where it's red. It's something that maybe should worry us because we are under potential. We are worse than nature, let's say. But there's also many places we see it's blue, so it's above potential. And this is the trend map, so you can see negative, positive, negative trends. This is just purely the trends through time for the 23 years. So we can map these areas, and you can see that in tropics, there's quite some red areas. So that's a bit something worrying, and so something you don't see in data. Anyway, there's a paper coming up, so you can read about that. I will talk about it also during my session on the open land map, but there's a whole publication on that. Then we have the Landsat data also. We just got the copy of the whole Landsat at OpenGeo Hub. It's about 1.3 petabyte, and we are now processing it. It's not something you eat for breakfast, of course, but we figure out to use the CVDFS and to organize this data. So it's we have all the reading, writing, and processing is fully parallelized, and it's all running on steroids. So in 3 weeks we can crunch the whole world now, Landsat. So that's quite exciting. One of our partners is also making OpenEO. There's quite some people working on OpenEO and developing inside the OpenEO cloud. And there's another example where this idea that we can potentially make a bit more open source Google Earth engine. So it is kind of similar concept, you put a code and you develop in this code, you develop some processing, and it all runs on the OpenEO cloud, and it's portable. You can document it. You can create a viewer, you can create an app. So, and that's one of the examples, again, I say one of our partners, the Synergy, build this AI for boundaries, which builds on EuroCOPS. So that's it for me. Open Earth Monitor, enjoy the conference, and for those of you that are coming for the second part of the week, we look forward to interacting with you.
And there is also a Green Deal data space session in the second part of the week. I believe it's on Thursday. So you are all invited to stay there too. We are going to go to the use cases now, some presentation of the use cases. Enrico Boldrini will present us about the WMO use case. And this is a virtual presentation. The speaker is ready.
Yeah, good afternoon.
And it's gonna work. Excellent. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Joan. I'm Enrico Boldrini, working at National Research Council of Italy. I'm presenting the WMO hydrological observing system, where CNR is involved as a technical partner, collaborating with the World Meteorological Organization. Washington Otieno, working as a WMO scientific officer and whose coordinator unfortunately couldn't attend today due to an unexpected event. The WHOS, the WMO Hydrological Observing System, is dedicated to enhancing the sharing of essential hydrological data and achieving seamless interoperability of services and tools. Okay. Its primary goal is to support hydrological needs at local, regional, and global scales. This includes the execution of forecast models and the calculation of indicators that are needed by global initiatives, such as early warning role, the SDG, clean water and sanitation, for example. The WHOS operates in close synergy with other WMO programs. For instance, it collaborates closely with the WICOS framework program, which focuses on building and strengthening the technical and human capabilities of national hydrological services. This empowers them to efficiently acquire, collect, and finally publish their data online, thereby contributing to the broader goals of WHOS. WHOS indeed leverages the data publication systems provided by the multiple organizations here shown on the left side of the diagram. Thanks to the WHOS DAB brokering framework, data is then harmonized and can flow from the providers to the different tools shown on the right in order to satisfy user needs. WHOS supports and contributes to various initiatives, including WIS, the overarching information system being built by WMO to share Earth observations acquired by different thematic communities, such as meteorology, hydrology, cryosphere, and climate. Additionally, WHOS is currently engaged in discussions with EuroGEO to become EuroGEO's data provider. This transition should be technically straightforward, as both WHOS and GEOS rely on the same brokering framework technology, the DAB. However, data policy considerations are as well going to be carefully considered before proceeding. WHOS is built on two essential pillars. First one is the promotion and utilization of internationally recognized standards by both data providers and consumers. Examples include WaterMel2, WIGOS metadata standard. The second pillar is the adoption of a brokering approach to realize an optimized system of systems, in whose each participant is free to publish or utilize data according to the available standards. The choice is dictated by each organization needs, capacities, and local directives. A third-party component, the broker, powered by the DAB technology developed by CNR, takes care of harmonization and mediation. It provides distributed discovery, access, and semantic discovery by leveraging the community-maintained WHOS hydro-ontology. Several use cases have already benefited from WHOS, including Arctic River, specific river basins such as Sava or La Plata, Dominican Republic, among others. Currently, 20 data providers actively contribute to WHOS. The WHOS Global Portal, here shown on the right, based on the Water Data Explorer technology, offers a comprehensive overview of these providers and their data.
1 minute.
During the WHOS implementation, we encountered various targets and challenges. These include expanding outreach to different communities and participants to enable also multidisciplinary applications, improving visibility of participants, enhancing data sharing performance, for example, through the use of caches, collaboratively managing the WHOS hydro-ontology, improving data quality of shared hydro data, and manage different organizational policies. Please find the WHOS contact email here and the official site for those interested in learning more through the online documentation and available publications. You can also try out the WHOS portals and get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have here you five. So thank you for bringing that presentation being abroad. And now we have Sergio Cinderella from the CNR that is going to talk about the Mercury. But that is not the planet, I believe. That's the Pluton, the Mercury observation use case.
Thank you, Joe. You're right. We are not talking about the planet, but the element Mercury. So I am part of the working group that is implementing the flagship Global Observing Mercury for Global Observing System for Mercury, which leading scientist is Nicola Pirrone. So, in a nutshell, for those of you that are not familiar with this flagship, the GOOS4M is aimed to support the UN Global Partnership on Mercury Effect in Transport. It is providing global data set for comparable monitoring data, is providing a knowledge hub for integrating Earth observation data sets and modeling tools, is helping to assess the effectiveness measurement undertaken by the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Currently, we have 21 voluntary membership. Governing bodies have been established, so the activity is well advanced. One of the major aim of the flagship is to build the GOOS4M Knowledge Hub. What is this Knowledge Hub? It is a multimodal, multi-domain computational platform that, as I said, is aimed to support the effectiveness evaluation of the convention. It is based on a chemical transport model emulator because, as some of you know, run chemical transport model is a heavy activity which requires a long time. So we provide an emulator of this result. It shares in situ data, model output, and of course, API of services. It enables scenario analysis for the effectiveness evaluation of policies. Actually, it also provides cost estimate. This is a new section. So cost estimate for to evaluate reduction strategies. But we are also working on the module on human health risk assessment. On the right side, you can see the different tools that are integrated in the GOOS4M that can be browsed at the address on the top. More than 100 data sets ranging from in situ observation of mercury measurement in atmosphere, oceanic campaigns, atmospheric campaign, but also not reported here, measurement in biota, because the problem of mercury in the environment is the problem of biota, is the endpoint of mercury biota. And at the end, human health, the impact on human health is fish food. So we provide also services. Everything can be browsed through our own catalog, but also through the Geo Community Portal. Everything is interoperable. We use ISO metadata. We support the implementation of the Geo Knowledge Hub, in which data are quality assured and quality controlled against standard operating procedures. All modules, each modules of the Knowledge Hub is peer-reviewed because each module has behind publication. So the workflow is clear. The chemical transport model emulator has API that are open source, and the license for the use of the dataset is under preparation. So the last two slides. Why we are inside GREAT as a use case? This is my perspective. Of course, we have to work in the follow months, but GOOS4M is knowledge provider that can serve different communities of practice. The first community is, of course, the scientist, composed by scientists, but the other one is the policy community, because we are interacting with the UN environment, and GOOS4M is reported in official document of the COP, of the Conference of Parties of the Minamata Convention. So we have a long co-design experience because each module come out from an answer to policy question. It is ready to be part of a digital ecosystem because we have metadata and data compliant. They are at a first level of interoperability, more or less second, but are available as an exchange format well known. The technical architecture for data and services is based on open source component, so it requires medium skills also for deployment. Its federation, we are talking about federation of not data but entities, is voluntary, and we have developed module based on policy question. Three last point. GOOS4M is partner of is part of the IRENE research infrastructure implementation project, IRENE PPP, which is aimed to implement the ESRI infrastructure on the development of advanced technologies, complementary services, on the characterization of the environmental exposure. It will take the opportunity to demonstrate through pilots the generation of knowledge, and lastly, it will take advantage from the AI workbench of the Green Deal data space. So I'm available for any question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We did hydrology, we did mercury, now we go for climate. Or is this the climate change, Eiffel Powers pursuing Green Deal goals and potentially enriching the Green Deal data space?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I will be discussing the Eiffel project, a classic, let's say, Horizon project, research and innovation action. We are two-thirds of the way there. Okay, so this is a basic structure. It has two components. One, we are using the GEOS portal to get data to build pilots on mostly on climate change adaptation, and second, on a bit less on mitigation. The second component is that we want to give back to the GEOS portal, hopefully by improving its shared capacities, augmenting metadata, and so on. Why the Eiffel project is a Green Deal project. We have 5 pilots. We have water and land use management in Holland, in the Netherlands. This directly links with the individual actions underneath the Green Deal policy. So it's farm to fork, it's biodiversity through nature-based solutions regarding climate adaptation and soil organic carbon. We have a pilot on sustainable agriculture in Lithuania. So again, a farm to fork and climate neutrality through soil organic carbon modeling and looking at individual different agricultural practices at the parcel level. We have a pilot on maritime transport, cruise ships in the Balearic Islands, and we are looking for a more environmentally friendly transport, blue economy, zero pollution, because we are using Copernicus and AI to create a management tool with respect to cruise ship pollution. We have a pilot on sustainable urban development. So again, a lot of Green Deal action points, renovation of wave, building energy efficiency, renewable energy, rooftop photovoltaics, environmentally friendly transport, introducing electric vehicles, and understanding the greenhouse gas footprint. And we bind all this together with a zero pollution application, state-of-the-art intra-urban chemical transport modeling. And the last pilot is a multi-hazard risk assessment in the forest of Finland. We are looking together at fire and pest risk. So this links to the biodiversity strategy of the Green Deal. However, we are a research project, but we are not a Green Deal project per se. There are some official Green Deal projects. They even have their own portal from where you can see this image. This was the last Horizon call, the big 1 billion call to give an initial boost to the Green Deal. Okay, so Enters Eiffel is one of 64 more projects, like Harmonia we'll be hearing next. What about these projects? As you saw in the previous slide, we are de facto contributors to the Green Deal. So what about these projects? How can they get linked with the Green Deal data space? And of course, hundreds more are sitting in the Cordis database to be and are waiting somehow to be linked. We are a GEO project by design. This wasn't it was a very explicit call, a GEO's call, let's put it like this, and Eiffel responded again explicitly. Our pilots are mostly based on GEO's / Copernicus data. When not, we try to offer an explanation why we had to use a commercial DSM, for example. We will be feeding the GEO knowledge package. At least 3 knowledge packages we will be providing. So perhaps this is a nice way to connect with the Green Deal, to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, so to speak. And I will discuss about the GEOS portal search capacity next. And quite importantly, we are also bringing more partners closer to GEO. Literally, science partners did not know of GEO. So this is a good thing and something to have in mind as a whole. Regarding the search capacity, we have built a cognitive search engine. This is quite a mouthful. It is based on language model technology. And what happens is a user, a potential user, enters a natural language query, and this is translated into a vector, an embedding, and the database finds the closest vectors and brings back a hierarchy of results. How we train this, we refine this model. The IT partners ask us, the science partners, the GEO partners, to provide a body for training. So we did this, we send papers, we send publications, we send links, keywords, whatever, and they created a very nice corpus of 300 million words on something like this. So perhaps this is a good idea because whatever the space, data space, before we had digital twins and data lakes, you have to find stuff when you don't know what you are looking for exactly. So perhaps this language model cognitive search thing could be replicated in these directions. We are collaborating with the GEOS Platform Plus project, hopefully fusing the current findability of GEOS portal together with ours. And last slide, last year, high-value datasets were a big thing in EuroGEO. We strongly advocate for their usefulness, their value. Here is just an application regarding building energy efficiency. You have three basic outputs: energy consumption, CO2 equivalent emissions, and building performance at building block level. To do this, we had three tiers approach, one starting from Copernicus, completely open data, urban atlas, etc., up to the reference data coming from statistics Greece. And these data are really valuable, and we should take care to introduce them properly into the Green Deal data space, because it took us literally 1 year to get hold of this data. Imagine if we had it 1 year before, what we could have made out of this. Thank you for your attention.
And now we will have Stefano Natali that will tell us about the EO for EU use case. Are you here? Yes. Give us the slides.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stefano Natali from Sistema. I will run the presentation together with my colleague, a colleague from me, Marco. I will talk from minute 1 to minute 5, and Marco will talk from minute 6 to minute 10. I have only 5 minutes. So Marco, sorry, your presentation is cut. I'm sorry, man. Okay, in this way I can move the slides, I suppose. Okay, the EO4EU project has the main scope of, let's say, creating an ecosystem to facilitate, from one side, the access to a large variety of geospatial data, from the other side, the exploitation of these tools through, let's say, different types of processing, mainly focused on use of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And the end part is related to the exploitation. So the way in which the potential users can play with this platform. Let me see if I can point out a bit. Okay, there are relevant partners. We are 19 partners, but among them, relevant partners in data generation, among all, let's say, I would say CNWF, relevant partner in data access. MEO probably is one of the most relevant one. And well, the most relevant partner here is Sistema and the exploitation, very bottom here. I will have some slides, so I will try to pass one message for each of the slides that I'm going to go through. Well, I will skip slightly the different, let's say, structure. The project itself is organized in tiers. So the platform itself is organized in tiers. From the data tier, I want to steal the message from Franz Immler, who said that, let's say, it's complicated, if basically impossible, to generate a centralized infrastructure, but instead it is better to have a community, or let's say a specific tool for assessing data for a specific domain. In this case, EO4EU has the possibility to access as a very decentralized way of accessing data. It implements the HDA, HMA harmonized data approach access like WCAO-like, and assessing, let's say, full products, but there is also the possibility through Adam to have a more data cube-like data access. So in a way that the data are, let's say, ready to be used by the users. There is also the possibility to have some kind of a high-level taxonomy on the data in order to facilitate the access and the exploitation also on thematic topics. I think that the slide will be distributed, so I won't spend more time on each slide. The message for the data fusion engine is there is the possibility to use high-performance computing, machine learning tools to do the data fusion. That means putting together different types of data, not only, let's say, regrading or homogenizing, but also really doing data fusion. And for that, we have providing a generic machine learning capability in order to allow different types of data fusion. Let's say, and then there's the front-end part. The front-end has two different aspects. One is more on the data analytics, let's say, providing different types of visualization, but there is also the one related to the so-called marketplace. That means there is the possibility for users to create their own data flow and to play with their own, let's say, algorithm, everything exploited in the platform. In this part, especially, the most relevant part is related to the distribution of the computation. I give you only one, sorry. We have 7 different use cases, ranging from marine to, let's say, food security. We have different cases on food security. and then soil erosion, and the last one is support civil protection. I will focus on this one, that is the use case for the environmental pest. Unfortunately, I cannot really zoom in. Here there is more or less everything, the different pieces of the platform, because the data access is accessing to data, environmental data coming from satellite and numerical modeling. Here the data access says, I pick the data from one data source, that is C3S. I pick some other data from satellite. It's not data fusion yet. It's kind of a data homogenization, spatially and temporally. And then I have data from the FAO. And then I train a generic model. I train a model here to try, let's say, making the model learning how to correlate climate data and locust appearance. In order to do what? To do some, let's say, two different tiers. The first tier is related to the, let's say, try to forecast and using projections in order to identify the optimal environmental conditions for the appearance of locusts. And the other tier instead is more related to the damage assessment. Here you have everything. You have use of EO data, you have the use of numerical model and simulation and forecast, and you have, let's say, finally the front end, the machine learning and the front end for the users. Just to highlight, this kind of approaches that can, let's say, rely on standardized data access will benefit also from the upcoming Destiny part and other initiatives as soon as they expose some kind of generic interfaces to access the data. So I think that this is really what we should go toward. Thank you very much.
Thanks for everybody for accepting the challenges of the 5 minutes. Last challenge for the Harmonia project that provided a title that requires 5 minutes to actually be written. So I will skip it. Julia thought three from the Protecnico di Milano is approaching the stairs and will give us the presentation. System for improve resilience and sustainable urban areas to cope with the climate change and extreme events based on geo and advanced modeling tools.
Thank you very much. Hello, good afternoon from me. We're the last presentation, so I'm going to present Harmonia project. As have been presented earlier, Eiffel project is actually our sister project. And I mean, I will try not to repeat some things. And as have been said, we are not really, we're not at that moment in the European Green Deal data space, but we're using data space on this way. So I'm not going to go again through the title, but as you can see, we are 22 partners and we have 4 different pilot cities, whereas Milan with Sofia in Bulgaria, Piraeus in Greece, and Ixelles in Belgium, the center of Brussels. So at the same time, we are having these 4 case studies. So Harmonia is really capitalizes one of the wealth of existing Earth observation data set and services, including data GEOS, Copernicus, ESA, TEM services, and other ISA data and services, as well as national data cubes with ensemble modeling, socioeconomic, in situ data, and spatial and temporal scale relevant for the urban environment. Maybe, yeah, it's also quite bigger here. Yes, we can see all the different data that we are collecting, geotechnical data, weather data, business continuity, health, and air quality. Here we can see the different hazards, and I mean we are passing through the last months actually. Urban floodings, soil degradation, geohazard data. So we're examining in the 4 cities, the 4 places, the 4 different case studies, this data that is a natural and man-made data, and climate change. And we have also the man-induced hazards that we're examining, that is urban heat island and their quality. You can see also the responsible partners that we have also from we have here, we have Ford, we have NGO, we have Humanitas Hospital is not here, but it's one of that is examining also the main data, the main health data. So Harmonia main objectives is to reorganize and integrate a huge amount of different data that already are available and to make the best use of the existing monitoring technologies and the spatial services for urban hazards assessment and disaster risk management. Here you can see in this diagram somehow how we do the data input, how we have the data preparation to bring all the data together, and then the intelligent framework, and with climate change mitigation, we are testing the 4 case studies for the climate adaptation. So we are using the Earth observation data that we are quantified and validate them, and also we are going through the risk assessment, vulnerability, hazards, exposure. And we have also a citizen and observation data. So in all of the cities, we are collecting data with different kind of workshops that we're organizing and collecting the data, and we have a special model on that. We can preserve the risk and risk indicators through that. And we have the integration and post-project updating. Of course, I'm trying to keep the 5 minutes. Our aim is to have our IRAP platform with all of this data are going in and are available on earlier on stages. So here is our contact. We had also earlier our poster. There is a little video that you can follow us here, and all our social media that you can find us in. Thank you very much.
What is that yours?
Oops, thank you.
All right. So it was relatively on time for almost every presenters. I really thank you for being in the 5 minutes. However, there has been some small delay. We had a discussion prepared that will definitely not happen. Instead, you have been quietly waiting for your moment for 1 hour and 25 minutes, and you deserve the opportunity. So, please, you have your 4 minutes of glory. I'm opening some questioning / discussion on how this beast about the data spaces in general and the Green Deal data space in particular could be contributed to the EuroGEOs or the GEO in general. Who wants to say something? But we have the first intervention there, and we have Mike. Thank you very much.
I'm new to EuroGEO. I'm an ecologist. I've been listening to this for 2 days. It's fascinating. I am utterly boggled by what is out there. Is there any way of making a list that says all of this is there? Because they're all individual projects. You have to know they're there. It's extremely difficult to know what to look for. Is there anywhere, I mean, even something as simple as Cordis, which nobody ever uses, of course, that says, here is a list of all the databases and all the data cubes that are in preparation, and here, literally, so that you can have some sort of idea of what's out there, because it's increasing like Topsy and we're all losing track.
Yeah.
And if there isn't a list, should there be?
From the point of view of EuroGEOs, I believe there isn't. From the point of view of GEO, of course it is. we have two different things. We have the infrastructure with the geo portal where you can look for data. We have the yellow pages that will tell you who are the contributors to the geo in terms of data. But there is also the working groups. There is a structure of working groups that you can visit in the geo website, where you will see different communities working towards different objectives. And I mean, there are 4 or 5 types of communities, but I will save that to you. Yeah. No. Yes.
Maybe a list of who's doing what.
Thank you. This is the scope of EuroGEO. We are preparing the project EuroGEO-SEC that is under negotiation with the Commission. So one of the scope is to map all stakeholders. We are working, we and ERSC, we as CNR, we are working to map all this initiative. As you said, we have project, we have different initiative, action group, but we don't know how they are putting their information. All right, we know, but they are scattered. So one of the main scope is to map all this and to put everything on one page, for example. That is your, I think.
Next week, as a kickoff for an ESA project called EO for Health, I think, or something like that. You know, to look at a project that's been funded to set up access to Earth observation data produced by ESA, which is the producer, obviously, for health. I've heard of 7 or 8 such initiatives here. Why doesn't ESA know about them? I'm not criticizing ESA, but, you know, a lot of it's been done already, and it just means that if we don't know, we get duplication.
Yeah, no, it's not a reply to that. I have another question to the audience, and maybe this is a really provocative one. It's the second year I'm attending the EuroGEO workshop, and the second year we hear about data spaces, and I have the feeling that's a kind of rebranding of the SDI concept, because when I see the presentation from France, when I hear about fragmented landscape of EO in Europe, this is something we know for more than 20, 25 years. And I really have the feeling that we are talking about exactly the same thing for ages. And do we have learned something from that? And what are the key differences between an SDI and a data space?
I like your question, and I sympathize with the idea. Actually, the fundamentals are there. So, in short, I really believe that the data space is, in essence, SDI as you presented. But I believe the Commission give us this opportunity to actually broaden the space, to include IoT data. That was missing in the special data infrastructure, particularly in Inspire. The inclusion of citizen science, the inclusion of the processing capacities that Inspire the European SDA also lacked. I believe this is the intention, and this is why the concept of data space was thrown to us. If the second thing is about the digital economy and so on, and now we are trying to figure out how to really apply that, no? And maybe you could.
I agree, and I would like to add one important aspect that particularly the European context has changed very much since the release of the European strategy for data, in particular concerning the different regulations. So one specific aspect that differentiate the data spaces from SDIs is this focus on trust, which means not just data sharing, but trust data sharing, which means including the security and trust systems to actually support what is called the European way, which means to protect the data privacy and in general data sovereignty. So, for example, as a consequence of the European Strategy for Data, several regulations were released, the Data Act, the Data Governance Act, and so on and so on. So this is actually quite a game changer for the European context.
I would like to invite Bente for the last intervention, but you were so eager that I will allow that.
Okay, as most of you know, I'm a former director of the GEO Secretariat, and I think that if we look at the long run, the contribution of Europe to GEO and GEOS has been very positive and largely appreciated by the global community. And that contribution takes many forms. Of course, the most direct form is the Copernicus program, the satellites, which are absolutely the best contribution in Earth observation anywhere. And I think we should not put too much emphasis on specific gathering together. When I've been to many EuroGEOs, and I see something positive which adds up step by step. Sometimes we're too eager for things to happen tomorrow, but in this game, what is most important is in the long run. So I would argue from the perspective of someone who has been here in GEO for day zero, that you should be proud of the contribution you're doing. We should value the diversity of scholarship and efforts that has been shown today, yesterday, and in the other EuroGEOs. And of course, the Commission is to be supported by keeping this group alive and fresh with work. So I think we should not over push, we need to put things together immediately. I think in the long run, there is something tangible that no other group, and I'm afraid to say so, no other group in the world is even close to what EuroGEO is doing. So my word is of congratulations to you all, and you should be proud of what you're doing.
All right. So thank you very much. Coming from you, I was not expecting that. I was expecting kind of a, challenge, but so I appreciate that doubly. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I mean, I don't drink coffee. So if you want to continue, I will allow that for 5 minutes.
Maybe it's my turn now.
Yeah. Yes. Let's do that. And then there is my coordinator in EO. For I have some things to do also.
Yes. So Gilberto, I appreciate what you say, and I agree. Being a part of the GEO family since 2004, so many years. I would like to do a comment on the GEOS, the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. It is actually the idea was and still is to create a federated system of systems, not to compete with the members organizations or administrations, etc., from the member countries and participating organization. The concept is still valid, and I think that the data spaces can fit very well. I think we have come to the conclusion that having a diversity of data sets and information or observations, including in situ, I think this is, there is no need to defragmentize. I mean, we can use interoperability standards, et cetera, to fix that. And I think that was actually the original idea, still valid. And then with that, I also would like to express a little bit of concern with respect to the term Earth intelligence, because that is probably too late, but I want to be also doing like Giuliani and say something maybe not so popular. I fear that when we are talking about Earth intelligence, we are going to be more competitive I mean, we EuroGEO or GEO, competitive with, again, the members. GEO's unique position, and thus also EuroGEO's position in the global ecosystem of all organizations, is that we are addressing Earth observations and everything related to making that interoperable and usable. And that was what was missing, and that is why I think we have succeeded in maintaining these communities. If we, and I remember, since I mentioned I was part of the community since 2004, so I have some memory. and I remember we were discussing, we have to create something that doesn't compete with the members. And I fear that this is, we have to pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And I think the data spaces now can maybe help us to go back or focus on that part to make the data interoperable, to focus on everything related to Earth observations data. Yeah. Thank you.
What about that? We had a word there and we finalized with the organizers. Yes?
Well, there's a lot to say about Earth intelligence and data space. Perhaps one of the objectives we failed in the last 15 years is to provide trusted, reliable data set on which we can base policy assessment. So in the way I see it, that the data space now should select high quality data in the landscape of a huge amount of data sets that can be used in trusted way. That's why Earth intelligence is not anymore to collect data, is to make sure that the data are of high quality. Otherwise, you cannot use the data to do policy evaluation, because data should follow a strict quality assurance policy in order to be trustable for doing socioeconomic scenario policy analysis that government can buy in. Otherwise, it will become a tool that you will use for research purposes. That's it. So the difference between now and the past, that the data space should have the capacities to select high quality data, trustable, that can be used for further application to support the policy decision-making process.
That is going to be difficult, and if I may, I haven't seen any data selector in any of the presentations that I've seen so far, so I believe that's a very valuable.
Well, let me add one more point. All European directive, as an example, every European directive for air quality, water quality, they have annex about how to do data quality on monitoring data.
Yes.
So that is what should be considered as a standard, not what people in the room may like. For example, we should talk about citizen science IoT data. I can tell you that all these data are almost useless for policy evaluation, because no government will buy in evaluation done with this data, only with this data, unless you provide a QA/QC analysis, very rigorous one, that can prove that your data are robust, reproducible, and so on.
Yeah, that's a fair point too. I could, as an expert on citizen science, I could reply, but I'm the moderator, so I cannot do that. Go ahead.
Yeah. I would just like to go back to William. He's the first time at EuroGEO, and he gives you this basically honest, genuine advice.
Absolutely.
And I recognize it. It will be very useful for EuroGEO, which is like a family of these European projects, to have a place where there's an inventory of the projects, of the data sets, of the tools built, of the use cases, pilots. You know, it will be extremely, I think, useful to have that at one place, including previous EuroGEO conferences and workshops, you know. So, I don't know who's in charge of EuroGEO, but message, I think Franz probably, the message is, yes.
I believe.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the message is, yeah,
I believe
we could generate the content, you know. We just need some place where we can.
I believe there will be.
You tell us, like, which is the data set you make? Which are your partners and everything. And so we could provide the content.
I believe there will be changes on how EuroGEO is going to be managed in the future. So that's valuable insight, absolutely, on how this management body could actually provide an extra service to the membership.
I can answer. I think that's very, very good points. And that brings us to the discussion of tomorrow, where we will discuss about what can EuroGEO do and what can the EuroGEO Secretariat do, what can the action groups do. And I think that's what we should think about and then also put in practice to really, I think one thing, and I like your comments or both comments, what came out is really amazing what is being done. And there's so many things, but we lack a bit the visibility. It's not, we sit here and show it to each other, but the world out there, they don't know about it really. And that really is something we really need to work on to make it much more visible it to the rest of the world.
All right, and with that, I would like to say that this was organized by the Action Group on the Green Deal Data Space. This is one of the European action groups into the EuroGEO. If you want to be part, please email me or Paolo, and we will add you to the mailing list. There will be another session on the Green Deal Data Space on Thursday. This is not the EuroGEO program. This is the other parallel program that starts on Wednesday afternoon, and Tom told you before. And one of these other tools that we are speculating is a tool to also collect requirements from people. If you are not able to find your project or your data set, maybe you could store your requirements for an extra look afterwards. What I'm missing? Nothing else? So thank you for being here, and we will try hard to work in between meetings, but for sure we will have an action group meeting next year. I look forward to that. Thanks.
Stella. Hi, Stella.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear us well?
Yes, very well. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. If you want to turn on the camera to try and see if it works so that you can join the panel, it's perfect. All right.
Yes, sorry. Okay, yeah.
Thank you. So we are finalizing the session, so we are waiting still some minutes, and in some minutes we will proceed to start. Okay.
Perfect. Just to let you know that 10 to 6, I need to leave and take my kids from school. Okay, just to warn
That's
you.
the most important, of course. Thank you. See you later.
Perfect. See you later.
Nice. Perfect. So people are enjoying the coffee break. So they may join as soon as they heard us. So let's start the session for the one who attend online. So I am Emmanuel Pajot. I am the Secretary General of the European Association of Remote Sensing Company, a trade association based in Brussels, representing Earth Observation downstream company. ERSC is a geo-participating organization since 2016. And we are involved in geo-related activities, and we really consider that the GEO and EuroGEO are key solutions in order to support research to business. I have the pleasure to moderate this session, which will be a discussion this time, no presentation as such, on the to boost the commercialization of R&D. The title as such reminds me of a discussion I had with Joseph H. Becher 3 years ago. He told me on the ESA side that if they were really successful on the innovation and the research, they fail on the commercialization. Maybe failing is a hard word, but we know that Joseph H. Becher has a strong vision and expectation for Earth observation. When we look at the industry surveys that Earth publish every year, we know that user engagement and access to new users are really one of the key challenges that all the companies are facing in order to develop their activities. If the Earth observation industry and the Earth observation ecosystem as such can be really proud of the achievement over the last few years, we can imagine that obviously based on all the investment of the European Commission with Horizon Europe before H2020, there is absolutely high expectation, obviously, on how to strengthen the industrial landscape or to commercialize. So today, and I have the pleasure to moderate the session with 8 individual contributors in order to explore the current situation. We propose and we prepare this session with 3 axes. The first one is to discuss the different barriers that
What currently the companies, so the one who are beneficiaries of this EU-funded project, what are their view on the difficulties they face in order to move from research to commercialization? The second one is a deep look on the different markets that we are entering in order to move from research to operation on commercialization. So we call them best practices approach. And the last one is about the current tools. Need to understand what currently, what kind of solutions exist in order to support the commercialization. So with these sessions, we aim to shed light on the common barrier that all the Earth observation service developers participating to EU funding project are facing, and their effort to commercialize the outcomes and to have a vision on the tools that can support them in this effort. So to initiate, I will invite all the contributors. We have one online, if it is possible to share the screen. Yes, no. Is it possible to display the one who is contributing to the session online? Miss Stella Tkatchova? Yes, thank you. Pleased to see you. So I will invite each of the contributors panelists to introduce themselves. And please, Stella, be the first.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this kind invitation. My name is Stella, and I'm the EIC Program Manager for Space Systems. So I propose topics for the annual work program on the space challenges, and I manage a portfolio of space projects from very low TRL to high TRL. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I will invite maybe Thomas. No. Push the button, yes.
Now, yeah. Good. So yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Thomas Kroon. I work for the European Space Agency Commercialization Gateway team. We're basically a team, we support internal teams, also colleagues in Earth observation with market studies and also outreach activities.
And then if you can share, please, the mic. Just go like yes, let's go.
Okay, good afternoon, almost good evening, we are almost there. My name is Enrico Maldev. I am the former head of technology transfer of the Italian Space Agency. I am now a space economy advisor for regional entities, so building space ecosystem and partner of a VC fund investing in aerospace and security.
Good afternoon, my name is Beatriz Gomez and I'm Senior Legal Procurement at Corvus Procurement Services, which is a consultancy firm based in the Netherlands. We are expert in innovation procurement and we support and advise contracting authorities across Europe that want to implement innovation procurement projects. And today I'm here also representing the EU-funded project Protect, in which several EU member states join efforts to buy climate services that use Earth observation data to tackle the climate challenges.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Cecilia Scerretta. I am responsible for EuroGEO for the R&D governance. EuroGEO is an Italian company of the Leonardo Telespazio Group. We are also participated by Italian Space Agency, and we develop geospatial solution from satellite data and multi-source data. I personally, I am a mathematician. I have a strong expertise in space geodesy. I worked in that field for 25 years. And now is almost 10 years that I am involved in the process and contents relevant to the R&D.
Good evening, my name is Giovanni Silos Labini. I'm the CEO of Planetech Italia. This is one of the Italian downstream company.
Thanks, Giovanni. So my name is Lefteris Mamais. I'm co-founder and director at Evenflow, specialized in the commercialization of R&D results and also representing E-Shape, which has finished but has kept a strong legacy on supporting the sustainability of R&D results. And hopefully we can discuss that more later.
Good evening. My name is Gaetano Molpe. I am one of the founder and CEO of Latitudo 40, an Italian startup working on downstream services. In particular, our focus is to analyze satellite imagery with artificial intelligence. So we have a team of data scientists that cooperate with software developers and system integrators.
Thank you very much. So as you can see, in order to set the scene somehow, we have in this panel 3 companies that can be seen as a beneficiary of the different EC-funded strong contributor to the ecosystem, and we have as well institutional representative in order to visualize the 2 parts of this evolution. To open the discussion on the barriers, I have a discussion to these 3 companies in order to understand why from each of them, which are not a startup, but a small company, a really established company, and a large company, what, based on their experience, are the reasons behind this hard transformation of R&D results into operational and commercialization. So I will invite Cecilia and EuroGEO to share a view.
Does it work?
Yes.
Okay. So about the difficulty to move from the R&D results to full commercialization of operational services, I think that the first things that we have to do is a bit to enlarge the picture, because obviously it's really very difficult to evolve a specific co-funded R&D project towards operational services. But, and when it happens, really all things worked in the sense that it was completely okay, the technological partnership, the user engagement, the clarity of the objectives, and additional luck that help support the project to be successful. To have a general management of the R&D processes, we have to widen the picture and to have a more structured approach. In our company, for example, the main factor is the planning. We need to have an R&D plan for the medium-long period, so for at least 5 years, in which the strategic priorities are set up, harmonized with our commercial and strategic plans. That means that you can use also, you can select a specific project, a specific topics as tiles of a general strategy, of a general puzzle. For example, a success in our experience, and also my companion from companies, I think will share this thought, has been the IRIDE program. EuroGEO, Planetech were very successful from a commercial point of view, and they leverage on the results obtained during the years of a specific development, also supported by co-funded projects. So first thing is, from our experience, the plan. Then also the sustainability, in the sense that R&D in a company should be sustainable, not only from, let's say, a financial point of view, but in particular under the, let's say, technological point of view. We have to be sure that when we undertake a project, an R&D project, all the skills and profiles that are needed to best exploit this project are available. That means that the R&D plan should be also aligned with the internal operational plan. That means that R&D process must be completely embedded in the operational flows of a company. These are for the internal success factor, let's say. Obviously, there is the external part. The external part is related to the correct engagement of end users. But in that case, we can make a step back and again, remember that the commercial sector of a company should be really engaged in that, also helping in selecting end user and to, let's say, to approach them and select them from a commercial point of view and using, exploiting them the means of the R&D projects also to have this achievement. So these are in a very, let's say, in an outline, our main experience as a geospatial company.
Thank you. Giovanni, maybe you can.
Yes. Well, we need today's session to discuss all the aspects. I'll try to go fast. First thing, in order to develop a research activity into a successful commercial activity, you need a market. And there is a general failure in Europe, in member states, to build a new market. So there is a chicken and egg problem. If you must have first the demand and then the supply. But if you decide that the space and particularly Earth observation is a critical strategic element of European sovereignty, and also the same is shared by single member states, so what you must establish is a strong demand from government. And well, in Italy, we have, was mentioned the IRIDE, there is obviously the story of Copernicus, but how much of, how many, sorry, commercial requirements are, for example, in the selection of the Copernicus mission for the next generation? And how much weight is given, for example, to the internal demand from the Commission or from the member states? And this is one point. Second point is that we have a very fragmented industry in Europe. So if we want to compete with US in this area, we must understand that we must improve our capability to integrate small, medium enterprise. One of the aspects, for example, very strong in IRIDE is that, for example, we have as prime contractor for two of the main activity of the downstream, about 25 small, medium enterprise working with us. And this is a way to improve our capability to respond to big challenges like this. And third, I believe that we must also in our R&D development program understand that it is important fail soon and fail often. So avoid hyper-regulation and go in the direction, for example, of contracting method like performance-based contracting, develop innovation also in procurement action, like, for example, the recently launched dynamic purchase system for Copernicus cooperative mission. That is an exception. This must be the rule, I believe.
Gaetano.
Yeah, I try to bring to this table the vision of a startup. It's clear we are too small company to enter in government procurement. and we need to try to identify a market. So when we started the company 4 years ago, the first aspect was how to create a solution for the market, a solution that can solve a problem. And the question was, what is the problem in using Earth observation? And the solution is that the continuous approach to project and not to product. So our vision was to transform the approach of the use of Earth observation in operative process that could be urban monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, precision agriculture, from the project, single project for single customer, to a product, one product for a lot of customers. And we put the customer at the center of our analysis, our design, with a typical lean approach. We had a lot of pivot in our solution. Now we are on the market. We are trying to bring to the market our technology. And the first aspect, when we go outside the government, the institutional market, is the evangelization of the market. If we ask to a lot of companies, the position of remote sensing is very low in the data strategy. Also, if the data is the problem, is the king of the problems. Because when you try to create a sustainability project, a resiliency project, I say this because I've served as a deputy mayor in a small municipality in Italy, and every day the problem was where we can find the data to take this decision. Sometimes the company, the municipalities, the government spend a lot of money to create the data silos and less to try to solve the problem. So with Latitude 40, our vision is to create a product that can help the customer in this process using R&D. So we are a company with a lot of data scientists. We are trying to innovate this market with the application of an AI algorithm on remote sensing. So with our super resolution, we open the Sentinel-2 image, the Sentinel images, put Sentinel image at the same level of commercial product because we reached 1 meter in resolution. We are creating a simulator that creates a synthetic satellite image that can analyze the change of the landscape. But these are not our idea. These are requested from our market. So the problem, I agree with Giovanni, is important to create the demand and to evangelize the market with using also marketing strategies, marketing approach of traditional other digital companies, digital approach. For example, US companies are very good in this process. They start from the solution and they don't speak about technology. In Europe, we always put at the first level technology and then the application service for our customer.
Thank you. Thomas, you, as part of the ESA Commercialization Gateway, had the opportunity to be in relation with a lot of different companies and your experience or the business cases. You heard this 3 companies which really represent the current European ecosystem. Can you share a thought on the classic, I would say, difficulties? I don't want to use failure or mistake, but that you may have identified in your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the classic ones also have been mentioned here already. I think one of them is a general understanding of your market. Part of that is also understanding who are your competitors on the market, but not just only from what kind of technical solution they're providing, but also in terms of how are they fulfilling the need of the customer. So I think sometimes what we see when we see a lot of business cases that they do a kind of positioning of themselves in the market and they compare themselves to other technical solutions using Earth observation. Okay, that's one way of doing it, but of course there are substitutes on the market as well, and that can also compete with your product. So sometimes this is, we know that sometimes this is, we see this quite a lot. And then on the other side, I think what we also see how important now these days is really when to commercialize a product is also your team. And of course, on one side, it's the technical knowledge of developing the solution, but also how do you have people on your team that knows how to bring the solution to the market and how to scale as well. So I think this is really a really important part of a team. sometimes you might have a superior technical solution, and you have someone who is maybe not so good in bringing it to the market, where another team has a inferior solution, but has a very strong person who can bring it to the market, and they might win that kind of market share. So I think this is something very, very critical. And also within ESA, I probably wouldn't have said this maybe 3-4 years ago, but we are more looking at actually the actual team and who they have, because this is just fundamental as well to bring your product into the market.
Thank you. You used two words already, which is scale up and market creation. And Stella EIC is supporting innovators to scale up and to create markets. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the EIC, we have the accelerator program, but maybe I'll share with you what are my thoughts on the commercialization barriers. I think the first one is that a lot of SMEs and startups start with very over-optimistic market estimates, particularly in the Earth observation domain. And I think this is quite misleading because it leads to building a commercialization strategy which is not sustainable in the long term. The other aspect is often when we start a high-risk innovation, we see that customers, they're not very well identified and on changing requirements. So especially with governmental end customers, particularly institutional end customers, I see that requirements evolve, they change, and this is incurred costs for the SMEs and startups. But the most important part is that the companies, the SMEs and startups, have a robust and long-term commercialization strategy, which really looks not only at the institutional end customer, but also at the commercial customers and looks at the roadmap and growth. And here comes the EIC, because with our EIC accelerator program, we give 2.5 million for grant, but also we give up to 15 and above million for equity. And I think this is a very strong, one of the very few, let's say, in the ecosystem player, which gives that type of support for scaling up and commercialization. So that's it. These are my little observations, let's say, just some initial observations.
Thank you. So it really brings to the next question, in fact, and to enter into the second pillar, because you use the wording market entry strategy. In the Lefteris, you are involved and you were involved in, you mentioned eShape, for example. So you are in touch as a consulting company with a lot of different companies which are developing solutions. So can you explain us for you what are your experience on the difficulties, on things that entities should consider in this step?
Sure, thanks, Emmanuel. And first, I want to make a sort of realization that I'm very happy. Most of the interventions so far have been focusing on the fact that you need to understand your user, your market, in order for any solution to make sense. And we are in an event that users are a very rare, occasion and presence. And I think this in itself is something we need to point out. Now, we have been indeed working with companies, for instance, inside eShape, but also more broadly, trying to understand all these barriers and all these challenges that they come across, and likewise with the user side. So some observations to add into the picture. One is that often people do not also focus enough on the benefit that the solution generates. It's one thing to have a technical, let's say, issue and just see that you have a solution that might be doing something to it. But then if you actually can help your user create the value in their own workflow so that they serve their users and you have knowledge of that, you are ahead of the game. And for instance, we have been analyzing in the context of ESA projects in the Sentinel benefit study, several cases. This was a sort of universal aspect that companies who have managed to understand not only what the user needs per se, but also why do they need it? What is it that they're trying to achieve? And how the whole value chain benefits, they were ahead. We tried the same, by the way, inside eShape, where we conducted some socioeconomic analysis at the level of the whole sector. And I hope this is something, this sort of transition into benefit-driven understanding of what's happening, that we would see more also in the future of EuroGEO. The second point, and I would like to echo what Stella was saying, is that there's this naive understanding often of what it means to do market sizing. There's a basic thing where you say, okay, there's a super large market, I will capture 0.5%, and you know, I have a very good business case. But then you look, do they actually have one single customer that is ready to pay for what they're doing? And this is very frequent, especially in European projects, where we see good R&D, advanced R&D, mature R&D, that never makes this next step to actually be paid by anyone. So this is something that, that we need to bring forward. And finally, there are also some small fixes. I mean, we saw with the sustainability booster in eShape that small sort of pieces of change in the business model, like trying to see, okay, maybe it's not actually who I had in my mind that will be the one paying for it. It's someone else in the value chain or in the supply chain who would be the one to bring that forward. And I invite you, we have now also a page, it's called scalewise.space. You can see some such cases there. I don't want to mention individually any of those, but there are some good case studies that bring that forward. Or maybe I should change my business model. Still, I'm offering the same technical solution, but under different conditions. And this actually unlocks real access to the market. So just some first observations.
Yeah, and well, when we speak about scale up, when we discuss with investors in order to support the scale up, investors always ask about this: what are your users exactly? As you say, we were involved in Parsec and we identify how challenging it was for the companies. But in the meantime, I could say that often in the research activities that we have, it's a lot of opportunities to gather a lot of knowledge. You mentioned the eShape, for example, observatory. This is clearly one of the tools that has been used, implemented, and will remain. Anil Kumar, you represent, in fact, the one who will help companies to develop in order to scale up, which is really a challenge for all of them. Can you provide us with some best practices based on your experience in order to avoid the company to fall into this trap to be on the project based on ground based?
Yeah, it's not an easy question, but let me just try to give some reflections according my professional experience. Let me add some salt and pepper to our discussion, because everybody has been so politically correct so far. So let me just, put some little salt and pepper. Now, making a startup seems or looks somehow easy nowadays. We have a lot of tools, a lot of instruments. We have the ISABIC, we have regional or public funding, we have business angels, plenty of, we have the 3F, family, fools and friends. We have, we can just raise some money to start something. Now, the real challenge is once you have started something, scaling up. And this is where, the game is becoming hard. And if you want to play that game, you need to provide something that is, of course, of value. So, and the same thing is for the research. Now, what I learned in my experience is that even when you publish a research paper, there's a lot of sort of competition. So you know who is your competitor somehow. What's the research landscape around? Who is doing the same research? So you have to hurry up if you want to be the first published in Nature or whatever, nice journal is it? And then again, it's like having the startup. So you launch your research paper, you make your research, you have your results, and then the scale-up part is exploiting these results and doing something, beyond that. So just three things, maybe, according my personal experience. The first is that in research activities and exploitation of research results, there is a lack of USP, the unique selling proposition. Why your research, why your paper with reference to other competitors is the best one, is the nice one. I have seen these 2 days were very, I would say, quite educative for me, because I learned a lot. This is my first time here in this group, so thanks for the invitation. But you know, always, every time I was listening to presentation, I was like, yes, but why your activity, your research, your project is better than the others? And this I'm also telling you with the head of an evaluator of the Horizon Europe space calls. So why? So that USP is always missing. There's a lot of things. As a VC, we receive every day 1 or 2, you know, offers from startups to pitch, and they say that you know, we are doing AI and EO, or no, we are doing EO and AI, and it's always like, yes, but where are you standing in front of the competitors? So first, USP, even for the research part. Second is, I know maybe it might sound a little oxymorous talking about research results, but again, the market. Your research result, the exploitation you want to do, in which market will go? Who is the, you know, the need? What is the problem you are solving? No, so it's like I'm making a research on an incredible thing, but I don't know what is the problem that I'm solving. Again, you know, there was this local. We were just talking about that before. So act local and think global. No, in space now everything has changed. So you need to think global and act global. So whatever you are doing now, the market is global market. So it's 90% probability that someone else is doing the same thing you are doing. So fix the market. Third, and I'm keeping a long story short, I'm not seeing, sorry for saying that, but in these days, in the few presentations I've seen, so maybe I have a bias in that, I've not seen the eye of the tiger in who was presenting. Everyone was like, I'm doing this project, this is what we have done, this is the partners list, we have been granted here, this is the results. No, you have to be convinced. I've not seen the eye of the tiger. And what is the right thing maybe from the researcher point, eye of the tiger and maybe the habit of a kitty. So be curious, look at what the others are doing. In any of the presentation I've seen this morning, there was a lot of comparison. Again, I have a bias because I have different hats, but I have not seen that we are doing this research and the other groups are doing this, and this is our distinctive element. This is why we are the best one. This is why you, in a later stage, need to invest in our research results exploitation. So those three are, I'm sorry maybe to be a bit harsh, just before the happy hour. There is a happy hour, right? After the session. So, but it's just, you ask my personal feedback. So this is what I'm feeling. So USP, market, and the eye of the tiger, even for the research.
Even for the research, it's interesting that, because for sure in this research ecosystem, we have less this habit, let's say. In other aspects, or maybe when maybe in pilots, for example, we had IndyShape or other actions or companies which are involved in cascade funding, when they had to develop solutions and so on, they were much more focused on, much more in line with this eye of the tiger, I would say. So it's a bit linked to the community we are in somehow, but even I heard that it should be the case as well for research too.
Allowed to be hashtag eye of the tiger.
Yeah, we can do this. Good. Well, when you say eye of the tiger, it means for me as well that they really want to sell what they do, so value proposition, but as well incomes. But we could see as well the other side of the coin. The provider, the user, will be the one who may need to acquire this data. And it can be really a challenge for them to procure Earth observation data when they are not really aware of it, and they cannot have the tool in order to do it. And I think in order to reply to this, how to turn users into paying customers, Beatrice, you represent a project which is working exactly on this topic. So the ability to procure Earth observation is really not a given. Can you give some best practices that you learned thanks to your project, or other activity which could be adopted in order to turn users into paying customers? It could be from EO or non-EO as you want.
Yes, thank you. Yes, so well, in Protect, we are still in the process of exploring the market, understanding what is out there and receiving feedback from the market. But of course, the next step will be conduct, if everything goes well, a pre-commercial procurement. This is something that I would like to bring to the table today, because I believe it's also in line with the previous contribution. Now, we need innovation, and of course, public procurement is a strong tool to foster innovation. And in particular, pre-commercial procurement is a very interesting in the sense that what we are procuring is exactly research and development services. And of course, we are in the phase before commercialization, but already in this moment, we can think about the strategies to foster that commercialization, not to avoid the cold valley of death, not this gap between research and development and the commercialization of the solutions. So I always like to say that the pre-commercial procurement is very peculiar because it's composed of three phases usually. So we have a first phase in which we have more than one contractor. So we have several contractors working in solutions at the same time, which already give us a hint of different solutions that they are working on. And we have a first phase which consists of the design of the solution. Then we have a second phase in which the contractors build a prototype of that solution, and a third phase in which basically the solution is validated and demonstrated. Why I say that? I say that because this approach is very suitable, let's say, for startups, innovative companies, SMEs, that they don't have most of the time the commercialization capabilities to join other kind of procurement. For example, let's think about innovation partnership or other more ordinary procurement. But in this case, because the contract is growing from the first phase until the third, the SMEs can grow together with it. So from the very beginning, we have this support. And what usually public buyers does is giving a strong importance to the commercialization of the solution. So we require the contractors to say, okay, this is my commercialization plan. This is my strategy to bring my potential solution, not that this is still being developed to market. And of course, receive the early feedback from the procurers. And also in case, for example, the EU project, EU-funded project, also of the partners and experts that form part of the consortium. So we have, first of all, early feedback. But also, so something that we usually include in the contract is we go one step further and say, okay, but you have the obligation to commercialize that solution. And we give you a period of time, which usually is 3-4 years. And if you don't commercialize that solution, me as public buyer will get the ownership of the solution and I will do it myself. So we try to support, but also give incentive to the contractors in order to commercialize the solution after the pre-commercial procurement. And there is still another strategy, which is also very powerful that the public buyers could use to foster this commercialization, which is, well, once I finish the pre-commercial procurement, I will buy the solution in another procurement, which is a public procurement of innovative solutions. And this is important because it's a way to accelerate the path of the solution to the market, act also as a fair customer that give some hints on the market acceptance, and also encourage another procurer, let's say, okay, this is working, you can also adapt that solution, or gives kind of a reference. And something that we are exploring now in other EU projects is the involvement of venture capital organizations in the PCP. So not after, but during the PCP, and exploring the interest. And the results we have had so far is from the perspective of the contractors. Of course, they are very eager to know what the venture capital organizations have for them, not only in terms of money, of course, but also in terms of expertise, advising the strategy to scale up the solution, etc. And also we are involving several public and private venture capital funds that also are willing to cooperate. So let's see in this regard what the future brings, but it seems very promising. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have an example of PCP in EO already? Because we heard about a few references, but in the EO sector, do you have example, or do you have some knowledge about how it was beneficial for the SMEs involved in?
Yes, in this particular sector, personally, I don't know any specific case in which, the pre-commercial procurement has end up with, let's say, a successful commercialization or the VC involvement. But we have a very nice example that I always like to share, which is the example of Blue Ocean Robotics, which is a Danish company that started being a very small startup, participating a PCP to develop a robot in order to disinfect the hospitals that kill all the bacteria. And from being a very small, let's say, startup, it received several rounds of finance from venture capital organizations, up to, I remember, for $48 million, if I'm correct. And now it's in one of the main unicorn companies in Denmark. So you can see, thanks to this pre-commercial procurement and the support of the public buyers, it started from being something very small to grow incredibly in 1 year. So yeah, I think it's an amazing example. And of course, we hope to see much more in the same way.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, Giovanni.
No, first of all, I had an experience with my company of pre-commercial procurement. Was Marineo exercise in the last cycle of framework. We can do another session about discussing the failure of pre-commercial procurement. I just said that we successfully developed this product, but at the end, the municipality that promoted it didn't buy it. Also, they was very satisfied. No, I believe the risk is that we look at the finger and we lose the moon. Because have a look to the problem you described about the startup mindset that are too much technical push-oriented. And go in any meeting in US about this, and you will find the same concern. Normally, young startups have a stronger technological push. If you look at the venture capital in US, why venture capital in US is more prone to risk? Because normally has the reference market that will be the anchor tenancy for that market. And this generally is not technology neutral. So they say we must use Earth observation to bombing people. Well, we in Europe say we must use Earth observation to monitor Green Deal, but we don't have the same approach. By definition, and the colleagues from the Commission can correct me, the Commission, but also the member states tend to be technology neutral. And so if I am a venture capitalist, I have to invest in an area, and I am not sure that a market exists there, I don't believe then the example you made that was a US venture capital invested in the Denmark company. We can say that, for example, Synergize, one of the most successful startup in Europe in Earth observation, was bought by Planet. And well, I am not against the exchange or investment between Europe and US. But again, we don't want to become a shopping mall for our technology successful company, for US private equity. And this is something that is very clear to Joseph Aschbacher and is reflected in the youngsters that are trying to change the mindset. And a small anecdote, because there was some discussion about the real perception of market from startups. I founded the Planet Tech Italia 30 years ago. At the epoch, they don't call it a startup. There was another definition, but when I proposed to a national program to develop Planet Tech, they told me that it was impossible that the market exists for that. So this also for encourage young people to invest in this area. Nowadays, Planet Planetech is a turnover of about 20 million euro and more than 150 people. So again, let's young people fail, as I thought, but fail soon.
Super, no, nice. Thank you, Giovanni. Of course.
Just 1 second, because VC was mentioned and so on. Just to echo also what Giovanni said, we are always on the same page. So I'm very happy for that since many, many years now. And well, the PCP tool, it's good. It might be good, but only to, to spark something, to start, because otherwise you feel obliged to follow the rules of a public entity that maybe might not be at the same speed or the same velocity of technology or application or innovation needed. So, and this, if I'm not wrong, so please Stella correct me, is also what EIC is trying to do with the different tools. So you are sparking, supporting, and then scaling up. But then you are not imposing some technology adoption or some other. You are quite agnostic in that. And this is also what maybe the real, PCP should do. From the VC perspective, that is the golden mine. So if someone is just supporting on sparking and then is technology agnostic, the world is changing very fast. So if you need to be resilient, if you need to change maybe your technology replication or innovation because the market is changing, the target group, the users are changing, you can do it. You are not, in that constrained world.
In a similar way, I would say that we as EuroGEO were involved in a cascade funding project some times ago. And we thought a lot of value in this because we had a lot of startups which really benefited from the ecosystem where they had access to market knowledge and technology approach too. And it really triggered them in order to have access to VC to create the elevator speech, more or less as you mentioned earlier. And yes, there is different scheme which exist, but currently these cascade funding are no more really popular, unfortunately. Maybe it will change, but yes. Is there any comment from the people in the room at this stage? Bent, could we have a mic, please? Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, Bente Lilja B from Norway. Actually having a startup. But I wonder, when we are doing the planning from research results to the market, what would be the timing on that? Do you have any suggestions of what to expect? How long?
When to go to market or timing?
No, the time, because we are looking at then co-design with clients. But even if you're doing that, it's not like, in my opinion anyway, it's difficult to go directly from research, even with the co-design with a client within a year or two. In my mind, is like more maybe 5 years is realistic. But yes, so we are nodding. I would like to hear more deliberation on that.
Left days.
Thanks, Pajot. I think there's no silver bullet that you would have one specific time frame. It really depends on what you're building, who your customers are, and so on. For sure, one thing we see is that often projects. So let's say that one of your ways to the market is through an R&D project, because that's what we're discussing here. If you enter this project without already having a plan in your mind, the different checkpoints that you need to achieve, not only technical development, but also the traction with your users. I mean, there's this whole co-design. It's not just a trend, it's a very useful tool. It's not going to happen ever. So that's the first point. Then the second point, and that's what I was mentioning earlier, is that, it's like they say that, life is the thing that happens when you're busy making other plans. So at some point you might need to become opportunistic. And we've seen it in Initiative. It's exactly what I was mentioning, that the different pilots were coming in with a certain idea, and these were 37 pilots. So pretty much everyone in this room was in some way involved in that, who had been building this for years and years beforehand, so mature stuff. And then you see one opportunity, you pivot or semi-pivot there, and you target that, and maybe you will reach the market faster, and this will be your niche to capture. So I think you need to be basically responsive and reactive to that.
Yes, there's no silver bullet, but there's no single vampire to kill, because means that when you submit a proposal and research, and then you study the market part, I'm pretty sure that that exercise will be revised tens and tens of times. So it's not just, once you design it and then the market will stay like that. So the most important thing is having a continued conversation, even on a daily basis. This is what Silicon Valley says, even on a daily basis with your end users, with your, target group, and see what they are looking at. To just concisely reply to your question, the sooner the better. So, of course, we are talking about research projects where we are not at, TRL 4 or 5 is a bit nonsense. But if it is a bit higher, the sooner the better, because the market will be the one who will judge you, not the Horizon Europe evaluators. Once the project is done, and then that's the hard job is coming up. So yes, the sooner the better. And this is also one of the lack of the some research per se projects, that they don't have this sort of maybe competence. And I'm very advocating the fact that if the researcher is a good researcher, it's not always 100% surely that he might be a good entrepreneur. And the other way around. A good entrepreneur is not a good researcher. He has to do all the entrepreneurship thing, but not the research. So, but you need to have this little flavor when you maybe think about a research project. And I'm just asking a question to Gaetano. How many times did you change your business plan, or did you change your service? I know the answer because I funded you in one of your endeavor when I was in the agency, but how many times? It was not once and then valid for all.
I think that it's possible to change the business model or the business plan is probably every day or every month. You change the number because something changed. You have awareness of another cost. You need to invest more. But the vision is, I agree with you to go fast to the market. If there is a customer that pay €1 for your research, the research is a success. So don't wait. Okay, I leave in my company the continuous discussion with people in data science. They try to find 90.9% of accuracy of the algorithm or of the model. This is not the right way to conquer the market. Normally, you can go to the market also with 75%. Your customer know that you are offering a minimum viable product, something that is not perfect, but can work. As low functionality can solve the problem, then you can evolve the project not with your idea or the idea of the developer, but with the idea of the customer. This is something that is really important, and I agree with Amin. The researcher is a researcher, the entrepreneur is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur needs to see the bottom line. I need to pay 20 salary every month. I need to pay the AWS. I need to take money from the market. The research try to find the beautiful picture, the perfection, and the perfection is not good for the market in initial phase.
And this is also why in the evaluation of some projects, you don't have only researchers or only, entrepreneurs. Maybe in this, I would ask Stella if you have some, some comment on this. In your evaluation boards for the projects, you have a quite heterogeneous group of people there because you are evaluating different aspects.
Correct. Actually, when we have the jury members, which is the third phase for the accelerator, it's very diverse. So we have people who are with, of course, technical background, but we also have people who are treating and asking questions with VC background also. And actually, especially for accelerator, commercialization strategy is, let's say, one of the fundament. And that's why I recommend to all SMEs and startups in the space industry, if you apply for accelerator, be very robust on your potential customers, a letter of interest and commercialization strategy, because these are one of the major pillars on which you will be, let's say, where you question where your innovation, your high risk innovation is being questioned, how you would scale up, how would you commercialize, and so on. So you're completely correct, yes. And it is true, we do have bottom up. Our program is also built in such a way, our work program, we have the open, so really bottom up ideas without, and then we have the top down, which is more on the challenges part. So it is really on a lot of the way our proposals are being assessed is like some jury member says VCs assessing a potential high-risk innovation. And I was in an info day in Ljubljana a few months ago, and there I saw a very interesting presentation of comparing VC investment and EIC investment in high risk, the questions, the process, and so on. So I think that we really, when you pitch in front of the EIC and when you get selected, it's extremely important that you are actually ready to, as you're in front of a VC, but not only the business part, but also, of course, the technical part, the innovation part.
Thank you, Stella. As you just mentioned about this, the processes and so on, can you please, in order to maximize the awareness of the attendees, share with us what are the current and ongoing activities at EIC which support innovators?
Of course, of course. Well, first, I would like to tell you more about the role of the EIC. In the space industry, we are relatively, let's say, new player. And as Alkimars mentioned, we do actually develop game-changing innovations, and we do support companies through their commercialization. So we have the Pathfinder, which is TRL 1 to TRL 4 for consortium. And it's the Pathfinder Open. It's built up on the Future Emerging Tech on the FET program. And it's really bottom-up, high-risk ideas and game-changing innovations. We have projects like using electrodynamic tethers for debris removal and so on. This year, we have a space challenge on the Pathfinder, which is about in-space solar energy harvesting for innovative space applications. And it's going to close on the 18th of October. Then once the projects are finished, they can, from one Pathfinder project, you have the opportunity to apply to transition, which is TRL 4 to TRL 6. And their consortiums, you could be either in a consortium or a single entity. It's to do technology maturation from a proof of concept to validation. And actually here, it's already the commercialization starts. And we have the business acceleration services, the early commercialization, and the projects get 2.5 grand. And the interesting part is I have some Pathfinder project. From one, I get 2 or 3 transition, let's say, transition projects applying. And the final one is Accelerator, which is for individual SMEs and startups, which is really scaling up disruptive innovations. And for the Earth observation domain, this year we have the customer-driven innovative space technologies and services. I know it's much more in the upstream domain, looking at iOS, active debris removal, but we do have one bullet, which is scaling up disruptive innovations for Earth observation. That's for 65 million. Companies get grant 2.5 million and then equity investment up to 15 and above even. So I really, the programs which are open are Pathfinder and Accelerator. Sometimes most of the applicants in Accelerator, they actually apply twice. And I really recommend you to look into these programs. And next year, we will also have potentially a space challenge. I cannot tell you which domain because the program has not yet been voted, but we've been working already on proposing a space challenge for 2024. In the space portfolio, in the accelerator, we have three pillars. One is one of the main ones are Earth observation and meteorology, in which we have, for example, projects which look at using AI algorithms for precision agriculture, using Sentinel-2 data, satellite-based SAS, predictive monitoring of critical infrastructure, thermal infrared payloads. The second pillar is on space debris sustainability, monitoring debris, iOS, ADR. And the third one is enabling space technologies. And here where we have innovative actuators, high temperature superconductors, iodine propulsion. And here I actually want to mention a huge success in 2023. We had 3 launches of 3 projects. Also, we have 2 of our companies, EIC beneficiaries, Dawn Aerospace and DG Farm, laureates to ESA Rising Stars. And we have 3 companies, Constellar, Enduresat, and Promethere, which are Copernicus program for contributing missions. And also to Cassini bus services. Our EIC beneficiaries, we work very well with our colleagues from Pillar 2, from DG Defis. We've signed a common agreement for fast-track access of our EIC beneficiaries to the Cassini bus services and also to the IOD-IOE flight opportunities. So really, I encourage you to look at our programs. If you don't know whether you fit in the space challenge, please do look at the Accelerator Open or the Pathfinder Open if you feel that your activities don't fit in. But please go ahead and don't and be persistent. That is my message to you.
Thank you, Stella. Thomas, you have as well on the ESA activities. Maybe you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, at ESA there are several entry points, right? So, of course, you could be someone who would like to start a company. That could be with the BICs. And of course, then we also have downstream programs like business applications and space solutions, which are mainly for startups, SMEs who are trying to develop a new product or service in their portfolio. So these are for slightly more mature companies. And then these are tools within ESA that we have had already for quite some time. And now we have also recently, from the last ministerial, have set up the Scale-Up program. And this is also very much focused towards investments. So building relationships with investors, having a platform where we can aggregate a kind of demand from a customer, but also bringing the service supplier together. So this is something we are building. It's still very much in the works. So those are some kind of tools, but I think in a bigger, grander things, we are much more looking at how can we change our ways of working by listening, of course, to startups. One of the things is, of course, speed and time to market, which equals time to contract in ESA speaks. So we are really looking at us, how can we procure in a way that we don't hold up the startup who has that ambition to hit the market fast. So it's something that we are building on within ESA. So it's still, I can update you maybe later how that's going, but it's something that we are definitely considering, and we're definitely listening to the startups which have expressed this need.
Thank you, Thomas. Well, we are quite close to the end of this session and end of the day. I really would like to have at least one comment from each of you, each of the panelists, in order to see what could be the key takeaway you would recommend or key element you would like to share to the European Commission in order to boost the commercialization. If you have thought how EuroGEO can support it, it is more than welcome, obviously. Gaetano.
Yeah, from my side, I think one of the things to push the commercialization is to add the KPI in the proposal. So you need to demonstrate that you have some KPI ex ante, how many, for example, during the project I engage 2, 3, 4 customers, or I imagine to reach 10 euro in revenue. This is important because now all the project becomes bigger and bigger. And with this bigger project with 31, 32, 40 partners, is really complicated to define a product at the end of the project. So each one of the partners, we are in a couple of larger projects, we try to commercialize the outcome of the R&D outside the consortium, because it's complicated with you have different companies with different vision. And the second aspect is to give a value on the market, the go-to-market of R&D. Typical, the go-to-market strategy in R&D project is not, probably in AEC, I know very well AEC, the go-to-market is a key part of the evaluation. Probably in R&D project is not so important. There is the impact, but is more on dissemination and engagement, not in go-to-market. I am also an evaluator, for example, in Eureka or other projects, and I saw that a lot. I am really selective because the go-to-market is fundamental for Cascade Fund or project very close to the market. Probably EU needs to be more similar to ESA. For example, in ESA, in ESA project, this is most important.
Okay, thank you. Lefteris?
Thanks. I don't know if it's so much a recommendation or rather something that I would hope more will be done going forward, and actually we are committed ourselves to support that, hopefully through the EuroGEO project as well. When we didn't mention it here, because one common thing that happens is that we're talking about research projects. It's usually not just a single entity that participates in these projects, and it's not a single entity developing the solution. And often what happens is that at the end of the project, you have different parts of the solution being built by different entities. So it's a question, how do we now exploit the different parts of the IP? And I mean, we had a first effort in that initiative. It worked with mixed results, but I still believe that there is a lot of good IP that is being created and then just stays in this sort of limbo state. And I would very much want to see, and again, we have some ideas of how we can pursue that, ways to not let this IP just be wasted.
Sorry, I will need to go and pick up my kids from the school. Is it possible that I mention my thoughts? I'm really sorry. I really have these family constraints. So I think the European Innovation Council is very much, let's say, an important player, particularly on the commercialization and encouraging new space companies. Actually, we were one of the first ones many years ago to fund companies like D-Orbit, like Endurosat, ICE, through our previous programs. I think it's great that we're different from the European Space Agency. I think we're complementary. We're not in competition. Actually, my colleagues from DG DEFIS have been building very good cooperation on the capacity building in Europe on space. And last week I was at, and I think Lefteris was also there, we were at a workshop called Space Investment and organized by the European Investment Bank. And there we saw all the stakeholders in one table talking to each other, being open, honest, and transparent. And I think that's the most important, that we trust each other and we work together. I have projects which work together under ESA Incubed program, under ESA Artes, under ESA Sunrise, and the other way around. And I think we can only succeed and encourage the growth of the European new space industry and SMEs and startups only if we support them, all of us together, and not fight on a political level, but exactly on an industrial, help them be competitive, do our best. And I think that's what we're doing in the last year. That's my only remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Stella.
Just one thing, as demonstrated by the ERSC study about the state of industry, we have a downstream market that have a value of about 1.8 billion, just no nuts. So when we think to development of this market, we also think strategically about the fact that we don't let too much in the end of commercial cycle, for example, because resource preparation and even startup growth is as fast as we can. It's not a very short process. And in this, I believe that an approach from the Commission, European government and ESA of in competition to what happened in US, that's the slogan, buy what you can, build what you need, is a must also on the side of the pond.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. About the complementarity between European Space Agency and the Commission projects, it's really tough to succeed in, let's say, in doing a really, to reach the market through European Community funded project, because the partnership is too wide. There are a lot of also competitors with you working on specific target. So there is some, let's say, ambiguous areas that have to be taken into account. With the European Space Agency opportunities, it seems more easy, the roll-up of the project, the approach to the market, because you can shape your partnership with the ones that will be your partner in the development of the product. So, okay, they are complementary, and we as company try to exploit the best from these two sets of opportunities. Some additional remarks maybe about all the stuff related to business plan, business model, and so on, because all this project and opportunity asks to the companies, to the partners to write down specific documentation about that. I think that we are now all acquainted to produce realistic business plan, but maybe there should be more attention to real business plan. And so maybe it's not just the processes and the procedures that we learned to use, but also to understand if there is really an intimacy with the market, really end users that are supporting the process. So maybe some KPI also in the evaluation, both from European Space Agency and the Commission, should be great to have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would also like to remark now the importance of the cooperation between the different players, not only the European Commission players, but also the public and private players. No, and coming back to the innovation procurement, I believe that the public authority not only can, as I mentioned, support commercialization, but has the responsibility to do it and not to let the research die after it's complete, but also make this process to go to the market easier and in some way, right? And I also agree what it was said about the importance of distributing the intellectual property rights. Because in innovation procurement, this is also a key point, not only between the consortium, no, in case of different companies going together to the tender, but also between the companies and the public buyers. And we always advise to leave the intellectual property right with the contractors. Otherwise, you are hinder the future commercialization, and this is not positive at all. So that will be my key takeaways for today.
Thank you.
Well, my key takeaway, or just to answer your question, what EuroGEO can do is find a kitty and transform it in a tiger. Just to conclude as I started. So, and this is maybe something that, again, we don't want to terraform a researcher and making the researcher an entrepreneur. But if you guys, as you have all, you know, the range of different projects or entities participating in projects and doing so, why don't you maybe organize something or some activities or initiatives to give this kind of flavor? Some flavor on entrepreneurship, some flavor on business modeling, some flavor on IP and so on. IP is more and more seen as I need to patent, because if I patent and my research department has a patent, I will get more score for the next year and I can get more funding from the government. No, it's like, why you are patenting? Are you going to use that patent to do something else or not? And I'm sorry, Stella had to go, but of course she had to. But plenty of opportunities, ESA, EIC, USPA, DigiDefis, and a lot of. But administrative burdens are still there. So it took, I don't know how much to submit a proposal, and then, you know, the paperwork, get the approval, and then before you start, these are not the time is good for startups or for research projects who want to exploit that result. So, and this has been an issue for almost 20, 25 years. I started my very first European project was FP5. And in FP5, there was the same problem. FP5, P6, 7, and then Horizon 2020, Horizon Europe. So it's not all, you know, nice and good. There are some things to fix, but EuroGEO can act and play a role in that. Find the kitty and transform it in a tiger.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was also mentioned by Stella. I think collaboration also on an institution level is key. Between all the different tools that we have, I think we have to kind of do a sort of a better coordination, how we can map and make it a bit more clear as well to the industry what all the offers are and how we can kind of coexist and work well together. I think that is a very valid point by Stella, and I only agree with that. Maybe for EuroGEO, I also think, perhaps going forward, maybe a focus on commercialization, business models, how you can scale a business, I think would be a great addition, because I've been here today. I missed this a little bit, but perhaps for going forward, it would be a nice addition.
Thank you very much. I would like to open the floor to all the people in the room or online. Is there any last question? Yes, maybe first to Erwin, go. The European Commission.
Yes, thanks for this interesting discussion. I was just wondering, as you know, in our R&D calls in Horizon, previously Horizon 2020, we have on a regular basis innovation actions where we call for a commercial application using EO data. And I must admit indeed that not always a success is really extreme. So we have some good cases, we also have some failures. Now, hearing these discussions, inevitably due to the eligibility criteria, you always join up, as said, left with either joint exploitation or scattered R&D. And Cecilia said that the R&D plan should from the start cover all necessary expertise in your company. So that's indeed an issue, I guess. Also, I like the eye of the tiger idea, but from a proposal, from evaluating a proposal, it's very hard to see the eye. Huh? Does this mean that we should not have this kind of calls anymore? It's wasted money. We should go for research innovation actions and then the IC accelerated, or do you still see some value into that? Maybe it's a question you can't answer, but it's in my head. So thanks.
Thank you, Erwin. Bente?
Okay, yeah, so now I will put on a different hat, the digital twin of the ocean hat. We have in this project, Ilya, the digital twin of the ocean, it's an innovation action, meaning that we are closer to market. And we have a number of different twins addressing aquaculture, fisheries, new energy, etc. Now, I actually would like to invite you to consider joining the community that we are creating around the business part of the digital twins. Because we are in this project, we are integrating the business modeling, providing competence and support to the digital twins, because those who are developing the twins, some of them have clients already, so that's easier, but others are completely innovation or technology and science driven. So we have a mix of it. What we want to do is to create a community both with ESA is, and EIC, and, you have different communities all interested in this. So I just wanted to say that we are, having this laboratory, if you like, with, quite a few twins. And you will see an invitation to a webinar where we are starting this discussion. So it would be lovely to have you on board on that.
Thank you very much, Bente. I would like to say first, thank you to all of you as a panelist and attendees. If I just have to have some keywords that we heard from all the different contributions, we heard a lot about market knowledge, business plan, yes, access to communities and strong links, daily connection with them, and as well bridge research and enterprise. So this thing, I think, was out of the pillar that we will have to develop in the ongoing activities. And for sure, you can count on us to support this. So thank you to all of you for your valuable contribution. And we are on time. Thank you.